Behind me is a stone cold-hearted killer, a murderer, convicted of killing off the steam locomotive. This is a GP9, one of the steam killers, the diesels that revolutionized the railroad industry from living, breathing steam engines to diesel electric engines like this one. And now, this one, though it's old, is brand new to the Lake Superior Railroad Museum in Duluth, and we're going to take you as one of the first to see it on board. Historic in nature, but brand new to the Lake Superior Railroad Museum, here's some video of this engine arriving just recently and coming onto the property as our newest acquisition to the collection. But this is not the first time that this engine has been on property. Look at this picture from 1962. Here we see this same locomotive, then numbered NP245 in its original livery, parked right here at the depot in downtown Duluth. And that's why we got it, because it was from Northern Pacific Railway originally. They had it built for them in February of 1956, and its original number was the 245. It served on branch lines replacing steam locomotives, and it was geared to go fast, 75 miles an hour, as opposed to gearing for a slower freight locomotive. At the higher speeds, it was meant to pull passenger trains, but there was a problem, you see. The passenger trains were heated by steam off the boilers from the locomotives. That meant that this engine had to have a steam generator in it to keep those passenger coaches warm in the winter. And that's where the short end hood came from. And that's why it was high like this. In there was the original steam generator that made all the steam to heat the cars in the winter when it was in passenger service. 176 of these GP9s were bought by the Northern Pacific Railway in the 1950s to early 60s and finished the transition from steam to diesel. The engine worked for the Northern Pacific Railway for its entire life, made it through the merger into the BN and actually into the BNSF. And it was going to be painted in BNSF colors, but in 1995 they decided it was surplus. So the first thing they did was sell it to ILS, Independent Locomotive Services, and they numbered it 1382. And they in turn sold it to Dakota Quality Grain Corporation out in Parshall, North Dakota, where it labored away until very recently. Dakota Quality Grain Corporation had an opportunity that they needed more power and maybe a newer locomotive. 1957 might be a little old for their increasing capacity out in Parshall, North Dakota. They had a great idea. Mike Nesbitt from ILS, who sits on the board of directors for the Lake Superior Railroad Museum, knew about this and knew they wanted a more powerful engine. Well, we happened to have one in the collection at the time. It was an SDM by the Mesabi Railway, the Duluth Mesabi and Iron Range, and it had been donated to the Mesabi Road Historical Association, and they generously gave it to the Lake Superior Railroad Museum. And with their permission, we did the Great American Railroad Locomotive Swap. We gave them the number 316, and we got back the 1382. Stepping into the cab of a 1950s GP9, well, you can see it's obviously rather dated, but everything in a modern diesel is still here. It's just older is all. Again, we wanted to save this locomotive because of its historic nature. Northern Pacific, original high hood, but something else very interesting about this locomotive. Because it was used on the branch lines, and because it had a steam generator under that short hood forward, it needed water. So the water tank and the fuel tank are underneath the locomotive, and that didn't leave any room for the air tanks, which operate the air brakes on the train and the engine. Those air reservoirs had to go someplace if they wouldn't go underneath, so they went up on top. And that gave it this very unique look that also gave the engine a very unique name. These were called the torpedo boat, GP9s, because it looked like those air tanks were torpedoes stored on the roof of the engine. In the cab, some of the equipment is new, and some of it is as old as the engine itself. We're going to work on this engine over the next couple of years. We plan to use it on our North Shore Scenic Railroad and in switching jobs for our freight business. It's a good quality, sturdy engine, and it does run. We'll clean it up a little bit, put in some newer equipment possibly, and you might even see it in a different color scheme. Its livery will probably someday return to the original Northern Pacific, and that's why we saved this locomotive on a circuitous route from 1956. Thank you for being with us today. Another new episode tomorrow. In the meantime, you all know what to do, so I'm not even going to remind you. I'm just going to ask you to do it. And the most important thing to do is to take care of each other.